So we have already dived in. I will
Absolutely.
just say, I guess for context,
Mm.
I'm always just dying to talk to you because I think it's rare to find another woman in this space that can really, that I have the sense of really wanting to talk to about these things. And I have such an admiration for you, and what I see of you and what I feel of you as a mother and a wife and just a woman. And so, it's just, I'm always so excited at the prospect of talking to you, and I know we haven't done it enough. I loved that conversation that you had. I finally listened to it after 6 months about geopadia, I think you're called,
Yeah, yeah,
geopadia,
yeah.
with Thomas Jockin and Javier.
Mhm.
I think that's relevant kind of to some of what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
But mostly, I'm just really alive to talking to you about mothering, really.
Yeah.
Homeschooling's also on my mind a lot.
Mhm.
I would love to hear, if it kind of comes in naturally, I'd love to hear more about
Yeah,
what led you, like did you
yeah,
always know you
yeah.
were going to homeschool, like some of
Mhm.
that background, because I don't know it.
Yeah.
And I know you do a lot of thinking and a lot of exploring and reading and discussing
Mm.
around education, and
Mhm.
educating kids and ways we go about
Yeah.
doing that. So I'm just
Mm.
curious to all of that. I also saw that incredible Instagram post that you put up of your kids at the table,
Mhm.
actually engaged in like books and stuff. And I would love to know how you do that.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
love the idea of
Yeah.
having my kids at the table, actually concentrating on something. Um, so all of those things, just how we go about caring for and loving our children. My son's about to
Mhm.
turn 8. My
Wow.
daughter is 5.5, and it's just been. You were talking about experience, and it has
Mm.
been the kind of experience that I could never have. I could never have known. I could never
Yeah.
have known what this opens up inside me,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
what it makes possible in relationships, and how the world can, I don't know, unfold itself. I would just never
Mhm.
have known all those things without becoming a
Mhm.
mother, and it continues to surprise me. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's just so much I would love to hear about from your
Yeah.
perspective and learn from you. And
Yeah, thank you so much, Aspasia. You're too kind to me. And yeah, I feel the same that same resonance with you and a gratitude for your presence in the space. And just the way that you take the time to think through things. Like I love the way your mind works, and it's really fun to see that the way you articulate things has always really resonated with me. And so yeah, I also just feel like a, for lack of a better word, serendipitous or like synchronistic kind of energy with you. And sometimes, like, I was thinking about you so much, and then I see you sent me a message or things like that. It was just really, really cool and special. So yeah, and the work you do, oh, I just get it. Just I like cried when we spoke about it last, because when we spoke, but it was just so powerful to me. Um, like the work that you do, it's so important, and it takes a certain type of person and a certain type of work on yourself to be able to offer that to other people. And yeah, it's very brave, and it's very to me, it's just such a gift. So yeah, thank you for what you do. Like not only for your clients, but for your children, your husband, your community, and for the liminal web. The spaces that we virtually occupy. So thank you so much for all that you do. And also, I love your talks with Seth and Daniel. Like I, all of, like those are just so fun and playful and generative and silly, and I love it. I just love what all of that comes from those conversations.
I think I've said to you before, in a voice note, that
Mm,
you very much feel like a part of that to me, in the sense that
mm,
there is no time that I meet up in a conversation where Daniel's present, where I'm not also aware that, like, that of your, like, Michelle is, looking after the kids. Like I do, I think
yeah,
that's,
yeah,
and I think that
yeah.
is part of maybe just being a woman and being in the
Hmm.
mothering role. So I'm always grateful to you too. Like you're always part
Yeah,
of it in my heart somehow, is what I'm trying to say. Like I feel very, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's a co-laboring, for Daniel and I, a lot of it is,
Yeah.
kind of having each other's backs on certain things so that we can make happen what we're trying to make happen, or what we're doing in the world, really. And yeah, I think that's important because,
Mm.
like it's something where you do, I don't know, it's kind of makes me think of Illich. when he talks about the shadow work, which is a funny phrase. We know that quite a bit with like psychologically, and that's a great area too. Actually, very random little side note, but I read this book called Owning Your Own Shadow, and
I have that book.
it you have that book, okay?
It's small, isn't it?
Very, yeah, little,
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
little, yeah.
I have that book.
Read that book, and I don't know what it was about that book, but it I knew that I had to take it seriously, and that I could just put it down and that's it, or I could actually do what it was saying and face what it was asking me to face, and it changed my life. Like, it changed my life in many significant ways. That's the power of a book.
That
That's the power of ideas and concepts, and somebody's taking the time to articulate something. Very, very powerful.
I had that. I had this.
So,
Just to jump in quickly, I had
oh
this
yeah, yeah, please.
because from memory, that book is Jungian.
Yep.
It's from a
He's a
Jungian.
Jungian analyst.
Yes,
Yep.
and I actually don't know if it's the same author. It might not be, but the reason I got that book is I had a similar experience when I read a book by, I'm going to forget his first name. His last name's Hollis, and he's also Jungian, and it's the same sort of thing. It was like he has a series of books, like finding meaning in middle life, and then there's one about the Eden Project, and like there's a few. I had the same experience. It was just I read a lot, and I've read a lot of Jungian stuff, but there's something about a particular book, right? And it's probably a combination of the moment it meets you in,
Yeah.
the way they use the language.
Yeah.
It was just one of
Yeah.
those moments too. I was the same way. I was like,
Yeah.
I both am terrified to continue reading this.
Yeah,
I also
exactly.
must continue reading this. And it urged me to change. And that was really the thing that actually pushed me into more interest in Jungian stuff. But yes, anyway, please continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And yeah, there have been many, it's neat the work that books do on our hearts and our minds and our lives. And that's not the only book that's changed my life. There's been many others, or specific stories or poems, things like that. But yeah, just because I talked about the shadow,
Yeah.
the Ilichian sense, but it's very different from the. I mean, there's probably some relation there if I sat down and thought about it. That'd be kind of interesting to think about it. But basically, there are people, like, I think sometimes the work that husband and wife do is acknowledging and accepting and embracing that you will be doing things kind of in the background, right? Or like that could be easily overlooked, but it's like such a precious work, and it really is important, it really is. And so it's like all the little things we do as moms, just all the things that you can't even really, like, if you wrote down all the little things on a piece of paper, it'd be very long, and that's wonderful. But nobody really sees it necessarily, and that's okay. I believe God sees it. I believe that it matters. I believe that it impacts our children's lives. Our husbands see it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't, because they're not just there in that particular moment. They have their own other moments with the children. But it's just that those quiet moments are so formative, and they're so important. And it's like the work that's being done in the roots of a plant, right? That then bear the growth of that plant and its abundance and its fertility and all of it. Like, it's all that it offers, all that it yields, its fruit. It's like, that's such an important thing. But it can be easy to kind of, I don't know, just work against the ego that wants to be like, well, I want acknowledgement for this, or I have to do this for you. And it's a terrible sort of power struggle, but yet it's so tempting as humans to kind of fall into that. And for me, that quiet work, that shadow work, or whatever you want to call it, it's like, it's in some senses it is the work that is so necessary and so dialectical with the work that can maybe be more easily seen or pointed to. And it's funny to say that, because even like the liminal web work is probably even shadow work to something else, because it in and of itself is often not acknowledged either. So it's not like, but anyway, it's just something I wanted to kind of bring up, because it's interesting, it's important, and I think it does relate ultimately to kind of a posture in motherhood that is an important thing in terms of learning to find immense joy in it and immense growth in it, because unfortunately it can often be seen as lesser than doing something else with your life, and it's like, why? We wouldn't
we
be
often
here
do that
without.
to ourselves. Yeah, we often
Yeah.
end up doing that to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
like
no, go.
oh, just a quick kind of, it's like our language is very telling, right? So something I've been trying to kind of correct in how I think about it is not to say like, oh, I haven't gotten these things done. It's like, I have been doing the thing, and yes, it doesn't mean like it's wrong to have other, you can have both. You can be doing the mothering and you can say, I'd like to, whatever it is, right? Like write this thing or get back to these emails that I need to get back to or whatever it is. Like it's okay to say you have a to-do list and you also have just the doing, and both matter, but yeah, just kind of like shifting the perspective on that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really tricky though, because already in that, we can hear kind of like the mixed messaging that can happen then from the outside towards mothers of because we all have that to-do list, right? And the terror of the to-do list. Uh, and
Why is it never done? Like,
oh, no.
why is
This
that thing been
world,
on the to-do list for 3 weeks?
let's just stands there and taunts me. Um, so I will only get longer.
Yeah, exactly.
But there
What?
is this very real to-do list,
Mhm,
and I think, but then there's also the messaging around. So there's this messaging of be productive, work through your
mhm,
to-do list.
mhm,
That's a marker of success at the end of a day, all these sorts of
mhm.
ideas. And then there is also we're bombarded with be present with your
Yeah.
kids,
Mm.
be
Yeah,
present,
yeah,
just be
yeah.
there. And relate to them in the unfolding moment of whatever shows up, but then the to-do list falls to one side
Mm,
because that
mm,
isn't the to-do
mm.
list. So you're
Yeah,
right, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
well, I mean, there is so much about
Mm,
motherhood that was and continues to be a challenge for me, and that was definitely one of them. Is that movement between,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know, on the one hand, yes, there are practical things that need to get done at some point, and also not just practical things that need to get done at some point. There's also the part of the to-do list that is just yearnings and longings for other
mhm,
meaningful, projects I want to get started or things.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
then there is both both my kind of intellectual knowledge and theoretical knowledge from what I do, but also truly my
Mm,
deep, deep yearning inside and wisdom inside that when I'm with my kids, I would like to just be present,
mm,
to them,
mm,
and how much attunement relies on that. And when
mm,
I am being aware of my to-do list in my
mm,
mind, that interrupts in a way
mhm,
like that,
mhm,
and just being with that and working with that
mm.
has been a real
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah.
But to go back to what you were saying there too around it is quiet work and it is thankless. Um,
Mm,
and I mean, thankless isn't right because it is thankless, but it's more so not that it's thankless for me. It's just almost, I guess, like almost invisible. So
mm,
it's
mhm,
not even necessarily needing to hear someone acknowledge it, but it's also the lack of really, so doing all these
mm.
things that I'm aware that no one else in the world is even aware that I did that. But it's actually the awareness piece, like the kind of feeling
Yeah.
seen or understood. I think it's that.
Mhm, mhm.
But then,
Yeah.
but then I always go back to too, like that is the kind of stuff that because I see it in my adult clients all the time. Uh,
Mm,
the body is recording it. Our kids
mm,
are taking that in. That when
mm,
we choose to be there and we are making those 1 million decisions every day that are
mm. Yeah.
invisible and quiet, and that does have an impact on what they on who on I guess what's the word, the security inside them,
Mm,
their ability to connect into their feelings, their safety and trust in relationship,
mm,
their ability to grow and flourish in the world. It has a very real effect. And so because it comes out later. It comes out later, all
mm,
these things that we think are kind of invisible, you know adults will start to be able to report the ways in which actually that there is emotionally and in their body they have held a memory of never
mm,
trusting that someone would ever really be that interested in them, or only superficially interested in them,
mm, 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 mm,
or there are certain parts of them that need to be cut off, all these things.
Mm.
So it does have very, I guess in my work I'm able to kind of be reminded, and it does help.
Mm.
But there is a, I guess, an intensity to that part of being a mother that is very hard to put words to, and can feel isolating, I guess, is one way of thinking about it. I think, yeah. And then I will just say briefly too, I think that what you're describing about how you and Daniel try to support one another to do the things, that are meaningful to each of you, that in and of itself is also just a really challenging thing to get to have functioning well
Yeah.
in a relationship, especially when children come along. And so that's really
Mm.
important too. But it's almost like you do become, as a unit, you are kind of this one thing. And so it is like when one's there, then the other's kind of in the shadow. And like it is that. Um, and the way that people deal with that is, yeah, also interesting to me.
Mm.
Another, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a lot. That's so good there. And yeah, I guess I was just thinking as you were talking about how, yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant point where it's like this kind of imperative to be present, and then the reality of actually having certain things you need to get done. I do think that, we talked a little bit about this. I don't know if this is before or after you hit the record button, but just on experience and how time in a certain role like does it's almost like it doesn't necessarily get you just get more capable, I think, to a degree, like, and it's
Yeah.
hard, like, I think sometimes it's difficult in the thick of it because it's like it feels so you feel quite overwhelmed, you feel quite alone, you feel like it's just hard to, I don't know, it feels quite difficult. And like, I think for me, an interesting challenge for me was like moving from I have an identical twin sister. So my identical twin sister relationship, we are still very, very close. But we shared a room until we got married, basically. Like, we would nanny together. I mean, we did so many things together. We
Wow.
went to college together, we lived in Spain together, you know and so we're both, we're very similar. We can kind of read each other's minds in that regard. Just in the sense of, like, I can, you kind of get the sense of looking at the person and knowing what they're thinking, right? Or, oh, I'm hungry, you must be hungry too. Like, just even in the little silly moments of quotidian things that come up for humans. Like, it's such a yeah, just synchronistic type of relationship. And so um moving from that to letting that go, like, it's almost like you meet your soulmate. It's almost like already having a soulmate. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know how to
yeah. It
describe it,
sounds
like,
like it. Yeah.
yeah. And so then, I mean, obviously Daniel is my soulmate and we are meant to be with one another, and I absolutely believe in the divine connection we have, and it's just so beautiful, and I'm so grateful. I'm so, so grateful. Just transitioning to, yeah. I became a mother quite early on in marriage. I was, 4 months married, found out we were expecting. Yeah. So, like, just kind of that, moving into that season right from marriage, pretty much. Now we have 4 children. And I think that, I don't know, I think there's just, I'm feeling a deep gratitude, or I have been reflecting lately, because even today, like, I had this moment where I was looking at my oldest and just thinking about, like, oh my gosh, I was crazy. Like, I reflect back on my early, you just kind of do this reflecting on your earlier years as a mother, or just these random thoughts that I have thoughts in my head all day. But just assessing, reflecting, and just being like, wow, like, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for all of it, even the things that were hard. I do have a hope and prayer that my children are able to, well, they're, like, I always think about it, they're placed in our lives for a particular reason, and we're placed in their lives for a particular reason. And that we are learning so much about ourselves through our children. They often mirror
Yeah.
things that we need to see about ourselves that we don't always want to face.
Yes.
And I just, so, like, I do, like you said, I do these side studies on different topics, and I recently have been really interested in, like, this concept of self-governance. Basically, like, just radical self-responsibility, if you will, but a lot of it is grounded in this ability to be calm. And it's like so funny because,
Yeah.
if somebody were to ask me like, are you a calm person? I'd be like, yeah, and I really had thought I was calm, but
Mm, mm,
in reading this book and really thinking about it and really reflecting on some of the ways in which I haven't always actually been that calm, I'm like, I don't actually know that I've developed that like I'd like to or like I need to, you
yes.
know?
Yes.
I'm actually not like I'm not as calm or I haven't been as calm as I thought I was. And that's sad in many ways because it's like obviously when you're in a nexus of relationships, it's not just you and your own little. I mean, you're never just in a vacuum, obviously, but as parents, we have so much of a greater responsibility for how our, what we say, what we do, how that impacts our children. And, again, I think like on the whole, they'd probably think I'm relatively a calm person, but it's just
I
that I
imagine
know
too,
that,
so, sorry to butt in, but just very quickly,
yeah,
I imagine too that
uh-huh,
the more children you have, the more too that becomes like an increased feeling of responsibility. Because
yeah,
I noticed that with having two. It's like, oh, it's not just one now that my I don't know, speaking in this particular way is having an impact on. Oh, it's two. It's two human
it's two,
lives. Yeah, and then they
three,
have
it's four.
yeah, that's right,
And
and
they
then
have
they have
relationships. Yeah.
relationships.
And they have relationships with each other.
That's
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right.
It's huge. It's huge.
And
And
when you
like,
see them mimic, sorry, you keep going, I'll bring it up
oh
later.
no, no, please, please.
I was
No,
just
I
going
want
to
to hear
say, because I'm starting to realize um, the stuff that's going on between my daughter and my son, right? Where
it.
they're having challenges with their communication and their relationship. I'm like, oh, they're like mimicking me. Like this is coming from like what I do, and they're bringing that into there, and like, oh, so it's all that stuff as well. Like it's not
Oh
just
yeah.
them as individuals and how they relate to you that also does that, where you go, oh, I see why this is happening. I'm
Yeah.
largely responsible for it. It's also then you see, oh, and then that's affecting their
Mm,
sibling relationship, and then that affects
yeah.
how, and then the next, like, then that affects how I respond to him about the sibling relationship, and then it's just
Mm.
this whole, yeah, a lot of responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big responsibility. And but it's also like it's one that really just it demands that we kind of rise to the occasion,
Yes.
for lack of a better way to say it. And I think there's a lot of like courage required in that, and kind of owning up to our like
Mm.
what are basically what are we in control of and what are we not in control of. And
Oh.
um
Because you
I
were
did a
talking about
recording.
being calm, and I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
throw that out only because I didn't want to take
yeah.
you off track.
Oh no, yeah,
We're
yeah.
going somewhere because I've got a lot to say on that. I think that's really interesting and relevant.
Well,
Yes.
let's go deeper into that because I guess the simple point was just that I've been realizing like, and it's kind of shocking too because it's like, I mean, I've been a mom for over, just over a decade now. Like, yeah,
Wow.
crazy. And it's like, like sometimes you learn stuff and you're just like, how did I not know this sooner? And it's kind of like you do know, but you don't. And um, I don't know. I guess I ultimately just sort of have to trust in the timing that unfolds, but like and trust there's a grace in that. Like for the things how our children have a type of grace toward us, even when, we in our own failures as parents, just because we're humans, like we don't do things perfectly, right? But we if we have a willingness to repair, to be willing to learn, to demonstrate that, and also hold a I want to say a type of almost standard and requirement for your home in the sense of how you are going to communicate to each other, like what is effective communication, how do you stay calm, why is calm important, why is calm not just a manipulation. Now I think the word manipulation is very interesting because
Mhm.
I do think on the whole it's obviously a negative thing. At the same time, we in a sense kind of like the way I like to think about it is manifest. I mean, I know manifest because like there's all sorts of connotations with it, but that's the best I can do right now on like on the fly. But there's kind of manipulate and there's manifest. So um,
Yes.
there's like the manipulation. We do actually like I'm manipulating reality sort of right now by speaking, right? Like I guess our existence kind of changes the way that like life is. However, I would almost say that's almost more manifesting if you can become conscious and aware of that and start to realize that you are doing a certain thing. Manipulation would be that, but in a negative way, usually with power struggles, usually with trying to get somebody to do something that you want them to do. But that's a hard tension. Like as parents, we do have requirements for, we aren't allowed to do this or that, but we are. So it's like this, it's really, but it really does show you that like it's ultimately you as the parent living out your own standards and principles, requirements, and having, that's the structure for all the love and the fun and the play and the inspiration. Um, and teaching that to your children, not because you just like, yes, in a sense, it's because you desire for them to do that requirement so that they can also have the order for the sense of the play and the free flow and all of the
Mm.
unstructuredness, right? There's a structure for the unstructure,
Yes.
right? There's a garden so that you can have like all that grows within it. But
Yes.
it's very difficult because so much, and I'm always like reading like 3 books at the same time, 4 books at the same time, but I haven't started it yet, but it's forget the author's name. I should really remember the author's name. Maybe we could put in
We
the
can add it
description or
in.
something.
Yeah, we can add it in.
Yeah, we can add it in. But it's nonviolent communication, and I'm excited to read that. But basically, it's hard because I think like the much of the ingrained nature of the way language operates societally is it kind of sometimes can fall into manipulation,
Yes.
even it, and it sometimes it's so low radar, it's so hard to tell, like it's, and it's not, I'm not trying to like say, oh, we'll see it as manipulative even if it isn't, because there's a distinct feeling to manipulation versus manifesting, right? There's a distinct feeling to manipulative language versus effective communication. It's very different, it feels very different. But if you're not really taught that, it's hard to know that there is a difference, right? But I think the thing that you can do as a parent is to continue to stay on truth and and what you know, and then continue to lovingly teach that. And I guess the child will decide, what they think it is to them. And sometimes they may still feel like it's manipulation, but really it's in a sense it's not. If you're saying like for example, if you're having a calm be a prerequisite for a conversation, you cannot make that person be calm, you cannot manipulate them into being calm, really. So but a child can out of their volition say things like you're just wanting me to be calm.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting tension place where it's like, well, it is yes, calm is the kind of again the prerequisite for being able to actually have an effective an effective conversation or an effective whatever it is, right? So it's a very interesting thing of learning how to stay in that place of whatever what you're kind of believing in the vision and the structure, but then allowing them to come around to saying like, oh right, like this is actually is for my good. Like I'm being asked or prompted in a sense toward calmness, but they can't make me calm. So actually, they can't manipulate me into being calm. But I could choose calm, and that would actually be good for me. Like that would be a good choice for myself to myself. Um, so it's just again like it. But if the parent can stay calm, that's huge for the child seeing. Oh, okay, it's not a power struggle. It's just they're being the thing that they're asking too. Like they're doing the thing they're asking too. So in that sense, at least it doesn't feel like potentially unfair, right? Like, oh, well, you're upset, but you're not wanting me to be upset or something like that, you know?
Yes.
So sorry, this is such a nitty gritty
This
example.
is not, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. I'm desperate to jump in, but I also don't want to
Yeah,
cut
yeah,
you
yeah.
off because
No, that's really all that I'll say for now on it. But yeah, it's again, it's a difficult line, and maybe it's a question I could ask more directly to you. Where what do you think about that? Like, is having a requirement of calm or saying, hey, we cannot talk until we're calm, and here's what I do to get calm. What might be good for you? Like, could you tell me something that's good for you to get calm? Now, in that moment, that doesn't always usually work because if somebody's already kind of feeling in the heat of those emotions or the frustration,
yeah.
it's hard to say, hey, what ways do you get calm? Like that might be a pre thing. But yeah, if there is that kind of response, again, for me, the only way I've sort of thought about how a parent could maybe best navigate that is to just remain calm.
Yeah.
Remain calm and just sort of say like, yeah, we won't be able to effectively communicate until you choose that, but I can't choose that for you. So I will just, going to be able to wait for that, but I'm here and I love you and I'm ready, I'm ready.
That's the bit right there. That's a bit,
Yeah.
that's like for me, I'm not claiming to be expert on it, but like for me, that bit that you said right there at the end is the key to all of it is,
Yeah.
okay, so there's a lot I want to say on this, so let me, hold on.
Yes.
So I do want to talk about what we mean by calm. But first
Okay.
of all,
Yeah.
that bit
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
said there at the end, whether you say it explicitly, which often we will, but sometimes, but you don't even necessarily have to, depending on their age and how well it's presented,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think if the child is experiencing the message from you, that no matter what else is going on in the communication, but that they feel and experience that you still, your love is still there, the connection
Yeah.
is still just as open as it was before this moment.
Mm-hmm.
You are just as, like you still love them all the same, and there is not a disconnection here now, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
open
Mm-hmm.
line of communication and
Yes.
presence, and it's not,
Yeah.
you need to go to the other room and disappear, and I can't see you again until, like, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? As long as they
Mm-hmm.
can feel, they experience you that in that way, somewhere in their body, it's my contention
Mm-hmm.
anyway, that is part of what drives what I think you're saying there around their felt experience of the difference between
Mm.
being manipulated
Manipulation.
versus, um,
Yeah.
yeah, like mum's trying to wants me to do something, but in particular here, but actually
Mm-hmm.
the trust that it's coming from a place that in you, that it's actually about them and your feeling, your determinate oh wow, determination strong, your beliefs, right? Your beliefs
Yeah.
around their well-being. So it's actually the
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
grounding of their well-being. And I think I mean, this can sound all very flowery, but I think this is what it is at the bottom, because what happens is I think kids, like, and all of us, their bodies are really, really attuned to picking up on the signal that no, this person is telling me to do something because actually that's going to make their life easier. That's what I think
Mm.
the priority is. I don't think that it's
Mm.
coming, like, and I'm not saying this is happening at a like verbal or a conscious level,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
think their body picks up on this versus,
Mm.
and all of us, versus they're telling me this because, they actually really love me. And this might not be the easier thing for them to be trying to sit
Mm-hmm.
with and talk me through right now. But they're
Right.
doing it because they really believe that that's for my good. That actually it
Mm.
foregrounds, does that make sense? The good of the child. And that's probably more around like what you're saying about the manifesting versus,
Mm-hmm.
because we
Manipulation.
all know that feeling and that stance in a conversation where it's like, this is right now, I just need quiet because that's what would work best for me because I've got this email to respond to and I can't do
Mm-hmm.
that while
Mm-hmm.
you're
Yeah.
arguing together, right? And so the
Yeah.
versus trying to come at it from the place of foregrounding their well-being. Also, I haven't
Yeah.
got an example there, but I do think that there's something that resonates inside them that they can tell the difference. And
Mm-hmm.
so that might not change though at the behavior level, how much they decide they still want to test the bounds and see if they can
Yeah.
enforce
Yeah.
their autonomy. And no, I'm not doing it. But I do think it's received somewhere, and I do
Yeah.
think that is part of what, that experience, when a child might kind of, that they'll resist, right? They'll resist the thing you're suggesting.
Yeah.
And then they sort of go along with it. And it's very important to you, to them, sorry, it seems that they perform to you that they really don't want to, but they go along with it. But you can kind of tell that they know that actually you're probably right. And then afterwards they might even be able to say to you, actually, you were right. Like that, I do, like that was better for me. In whatever the child version
Yeah.
words of that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I do think
Absolutely.
that that's part of that. It lands somewhere, and I do think that they know the
Mm.
difference.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the tuning to that, whatever that is that I'm describing there, is really, really important. And that
Mm.
gets all out of whack when
Mm.
it's not, when we're interacting with our children in other ways that become more like domination and power struggle and
Mm.
the quick, fast, efficient manipulation. And again, when I
Mm.
say these things, I don't want it to sound like I don't understand the stresses that are on parents and
Mhm.
what it's like to be in a moment where actually I really just, the easiest thing for me right now would be for everyone just to be silent and get along so that I could do this, like finish this thing I'm doing. Okay, I
Mm.
understand
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But if we're talking about more of a trying, in an ideal way, what is it
Yeah.
we would be doing here? I do think it's
Hmm.
grounding their well-being
Yeah.
in what we are requesting of them, especially
Yeah.
putting in those boundaries. When you talk about what is calm, when you talk about calm, I think about what is calm.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Great question.
Yeah, and I, from my point of view, that when you're talking about it, it sounds to me like the lack of anxiety, maybe,
Yeah.
or at least the lack of anxiety to the degree that it interferes with your decision on how to parent in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So like you may still definitely feel the anxiety and be aware of it as long as you can
Yeah.
reflect on it and sort of tease
Yeah.
it apart from what you're going to do. But then
Mm.
there are higher forms of anxiety, or I guess there are forms of defensive behavior that sit on top of that,
Mm.
that do lead us astray. And so I guess, okay, I'll tell you why I think it's important to differentiate, because I think sometimes
Yeah.
people confuse calm with not feeling any, like not really feeling much emotional tone at all. Now, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's necessarily what you're saying. It's that you're not flooded by something. You don't feel
Mm.
that your actions are being overtaken, or
Yeah.
your perception of reality isn't being diluted by some other kind of emotional or anxiety-ridden force. It's,
Yeah.
it's yeah. Whereas I think
Yeah.
people can
Agree.
read calm as everything feels like a kind of, I don't know, Buddhist temple inside. And
Well, well, yeah, no, that's, I mean, that's like perfect. I mean, that's so perfect because, like, well, and we touched on it earlier in terms of like some of the things we hope to kind of cover and what we're talking about. But we have a lot of conversations in our home. Um, just welcome all of the questions, and there are a lot of them sometimes. And I think what's fun is when you really get to sort of express to like, well, I don't really know that, but that's a really interesting question, and let's look it up, or let's get out our our big dictionaries or whatever.
oh,
Like, it's a fun process to do that with your children. And um and then also, like, it's yeah, it's important because so I was talking about what is calm with my oldest son, and he, that was actually what we were kind of both kind of grappling with, that and hearing each other's perspectives on it. And it was a really rich conversation, and I'm sure we'll probably revisit it again and again, him and I. um but like, there is a way in which you do have to kind of get back to, like, well, what is calm? Are we talking about like being in a meditative state? Are we talking about
mm,
like not feeling anything at all? Are we talking about being friendly? Are we talking about like,
yes.
being nice? Are we talking about, what are we talking about? I think that for me, I learned this concept. Well, obviously, calm is just a concept, like, it's out there, but many, many people will talk about it, But the thing, self governance, that I've been learning about is from a woman named Nicolene Peck, and she has four of her own children, and she did therapeutic foster care for children, for teens 12 to 18, for many years. And so she wrote a book because how what she learned in her training to do what she did also was something that really, really, like, it just lit her up, and she's like, wow, this is so important. And she created a framework for this, and she's like, people kept asking me, like, what do you call this? She's like, I guess if I had to say, she thought about it and what prayed about it and whatever, and she said, like, I think it's self-governance, really, ultimately. And she talks about calm and a lot. And it's she talks about it like this. She has some 18th century philosopher person who has a quote about calm, like how it's the rarest quality in a human, and how it's really about essentially being able to get to the place where you are able to think clearly.
Yes.
Like, where you're not, like you're saying, you're not being flooded and driven by
Yes.
your irritation, your anger, your frustration, your all of that. Like, you have acknowledged that you feel those ways, but you took a minute, or however many minutes it might take you, to get calm, to get to the place where you're not speaking out of a place of yeah, like, out of that sort of vengeful place that sometimes we can get to as humans unintentionally. We never want to do that, but we sometimes can. And so, um, it's being able to also have the power. to choose to be okay, even when things don't feel like they're okay,
Yes.
which is that obviously there can be a way in which it's like, oh, well, aren't you lying to yourself? But it's a powerful thing to be able to say, you know what, I can actually have a choice in this. I have an agency in this, and I can choose that. I can choose that. So I can acknowledge what I'm really feeling and what's really going on, and we don't exclude those, but we get to the place where we can actually talk about it, where you can actually express about how you're feeling.
Yeah, but see
Instead,
that,
yeah,
I was just going to say, but it's so interesting when people say that, right? Aren't you then lying to yourself?
mm,
Because the truth of the matter is, well, you're actually kind of lying to yourself if you allow the process in that moment, which as an example, right? As an
mm,
example, brings up so much anger inside you, and you learned that
mm,
a long time ago. You learned that when you start to get in touch with that level of anger, you have to cut off any other feelings that you feel, right, for various
mm,
developmental reasons. So part of what happens is we become so
mm,
aware of the anger that we lose the contact with the love, as an example,
mhm,
right? And
mhm,
so then we
mhm.
can become more cold or cruel or dismissive of people who
Yeah,
we otherwise love.
yeah,
That, I mean, you could talk about, this is where language becomes important and the levels of awareness become important, because you can
mm,
talk about that too as a kind of lie. The process that takes hold
mm,
then actually cuts you off from access to very real, alive, loving feelings towards
mm,
someone just for a
mm.
brief moment.
Yeah.
And so actually, if we go along with that, that's what I sort of mean by it becomes a deluding process, because if we just go along
Mhm.
with that, um, then we fail to integrate a very important emotional piece that's also um,
Mm.
at play in the relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
actually, I think for some, and this is going to differ for each person, but for some people, part of what helps is to actually bring balance to the emotional system by also bringing in the loving feelings, opening back up to the access to
Mm.
looking at your child or your partner or whoever and
Mhm.
remembering this is the same person that I love and has done those things,
Mhm.
and we've had those moments together and is capable of this
Mm.
and that. And um,
Yeah.
you bring that in, though, not to try and pretend the other one. So it's not to then
Exactly.
blanket over it and do the opposite. It's hold them both together. But that
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
the balancing that I think is maybe part of this calm. Like that sort of brings more of a
Yeah.
balance back to the system. It's
Mm.
less, one way of thinking about it is maybe it's less scary to feel that level of anger or something, like when you can also bring that other balance piece in. Anyway, please continue.
Mm.
I cut you
Mhm.
off again.
No, 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 you didn't. I'm honestly no, you're you're just fine. If you did, I'm
Okay,
on
good.
to what you're
I
talking
never
about.
know if I'm
So
going to just jump in or should just wait. The people in general, not you.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
please jump in. I love the kind of free flow and tangential, and
Okay,
it's
good.
like how it feels like when I'm talking with my twin sister.
Oh, good.
It's like this very it's lovely.
Good, good, good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's really good and really important. And yeah, I guess I was thinking about something I had said before about just the the transitioning into motherhood early on, and just sort of feeling the I don't know. It's funny because I think there actually was already a deep intuition that was just there already, um,
Yeah.
even as a mother of one. But like something, I don't know. It's almost like it's interesting because I think back to like, wow, there are certain things that maybe I don't know. It's just maybe it's kind of like a coming of age as a mother or something like that. Like it may just be a necessary process of like you feel more in touch with your intuition, you feel more confident, and then you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then, it's kind of just ebbs and flows between those two places. But I think that there is something about like understanding that yes, one, it is a process. Two, you are actually growing and it is making headway. Like you are making headway in your growth as long as you're always open to learning and to refining and to assessing
Yes.
yourself. Um, and how is this working with my children, with my oldest, with my my younger children, my youngest? Like you do this sort of work and see you get to know their personalities and how they are in the world and what they're here for, and you sort of like just start to see that, and your job is to kind of like allow for them to be able to come fully into who they are, as individuals. But also like you are a family, so you have this kind of presence as a family, and
Yes.
that's a great unifying thing for them too, to feel that sense of belonging in their family, to know what your purpose is as a family. and why you're here, what you're kind of doing, and what is the flavor of your home in that sense. So yeah,
Oh, that's
I
so,
guess I
yeah.
yeah, I guess I just say all that because like
Mm.
yeah, some of this idea of realizing recently about not being calm, it's not as if I think so my mom is incredibly patient and I'm so grateful for her patience because I learned a lot about being patient.
Yeah.
And that is such a gift. And I think in some ways most people would say, oh, like you're very, not to like toot my own horn. I'm just saying I feel like the patience part is something I've been able to understand and do pretty well. But it's interesting with the calm part and then the sense of self in motherhood,
Yeah.
in marriage, in the nexus, in still being a woman, right? Like that's the aspect which I feel like almost
Mm.
it's very exciting. Um, but it's also a little bit like I don't know why I didn't really understand the value of these things. Like I mean I think I could assent, I could like intellectually agree and understand it, but it's almost like it's happening more so now of realizing how the ability to grow in those areas and how beneficial that is for your children, for
Yes.
your home,
Yes.
like to be able to fully be in yourself and also still be fully mother.
Yeah.
It's a very cool thing. Like it to be able to do that work, it's not at this expense. It's like a actually symbiotic type of thing. But yeah, you're this because I've been reading through The
Yeah.
Artist Way by Julia Cameron. It's been fantastic, and just like the little things. Where it's like, oh my goodness, these little habits or these little shifts in perspective or these little tools you give yourself to actually think of, meditate on what does it mean to be calm, to actually practice being able to get calm. Um, it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And this thing about like what I was saying was so good. What you're saying is trusting that the children know the difference, right? Like when you just know, when you're really doing the work to try and actually not just trying but actually doing the work of okay, I'm going to do this from a place of what my beliefs are, right? They know that, and I do think there's this interesting kind of softening that like
Yes.
where it's like, oh wow, it's actually not a power, like it's not,
Yes.
um you start to realize like it's not a power struggle, it's actually just effective communication, it's actually just
Mm.
love. It's actually just a space to grow, it's a space for us to learn. um I think there's something there. There's just something really like where you have to trust the process there too. Like I'm saying, this trusting the macro process of becoming fully into your motherhood. It's also like, because they say like when the baby is born, so is the mother. So you're like an infant as a mother. That's a crazy, powerful symbolism, but it's true. And so, yeah, I think that
Yeah.
it's this trusting that that what you're doing from that place of being able to work through your own stuff, being able to do the cultivation of your own self um, is really, really powerful and is doing something that is what you're hoping for anyway, right? That you can have that connection, that you can have that ability to learn together, to grow, to teach, because we are in a teaching position, really, as mothers in many ways, as parents. And so we do learn a lot too, but we are teaching certain things. And so, yeah, I think that's just, it was helpful for me to hear you say that, because it's like just trusting that they know, the difference, they know the difference.
Yes.
And and maybe there's still some pushback initially because sometimes there's still that, if you're especially if you're building back up that place of like trust, calm, effective communication, it takes some, you may have a lot of good things going in terms of your relationship with whoever, right? Your child, your friend, your spouse, who this can apply to anyone, but obviously we're talking as mothers to children, but it's building, you may have a good relationship, but for it to be like thriving, for it to be excellent, it is a constant, like it is an effort. You have to actually, build and rapport, build trust with each other. And that's an important thing, and it does like it'll take a little bit of time, but it's so rewarding and important because it can lead to just so much that can be learned there, and so much can be applied when your children grow up and live their own lives too, like where they're, because these skills are things that we need as adults. Like this concept of self-governance, we need as adults, children need it, and they can use it too as they grow up and into their own autonomous lives. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking about that because yeah, I think there's a lot of like fear. We've talked about this before too. There can be a lot of fear in parenting, like, oh no, like, I think it's just kind of trusting, like, well, wait, are you really addressing the things you need to address in yourself?
Yeah.
Do that, work hard at that, like, look at that, really, really look at that, do the work you need to do there, and then stay in that place of calm and confidence. And that will really do a lot in terms of how your children feel that experience,
Yeah.
of whether it's a correction or in something you may have to give as an imperative, or a to do, like, hey, we need to do this, or hey, this is an instruction, just how you run a home, like how you're just doing regular life when you get your shoes on, things like that. I mean, these are all the little moments, all these millions of decisions, right? But I think that presence is going to be very impactful for how they can also receive that and see it as a co-laboring and a collaborative work that you're doing as a family and as a home. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was a little bit all over the place, but yeah,
No, no,
thanks for letting
no.
me share.
That's wonderful. There's so much. I have to understand my notes. Um, but that bit at the end there
Mm.
makes me
Oh
think
yeah.
of, it sounds sort of something like consistency, right? Like the children experiencing something, like, I can't think of a better word. It's not the right word, but
Mm.
some
No, no, I love that word.
consistency that holds them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's very different to like a blind rigidity, right? Because people,
Mm-hmm.
I guess like the more superficial version of this consistency that we're talking about is let's just have some kind of, like, I don't know, black and white rules and just like be very rigid about them
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
never check back in with, why am I insisting on that one? Do I
yeah,
still want, like,
exactly.
so there's some really important pieces in all, there's some really important capacities. And I think,
Yeah.
this the ability to stay open with our
Mm.
children,
Yeah.
and that can be really testing at times, and that will depend too
Hmm.
on your own childhood, as to
Yeah,
how testing that can be in certain situations, and they
yeah,
might surprise you, those situations. But
right.
remaining open, how do I continue to remain open and let them know the connection remains open despite
Yeah.
whatever else is going on in the relationship? Um,
Hmm.
Also, the capacity for reflection, constant self-reflection, right? As parents, as
Mm.
mothers,
Hmm.
constant, reflecting, like, how did that go? What did happen for me in that moment?
Hmm.
And you've talked about this before, like it's sort of the perfecting work, and
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
and this is also, in large part, the invisible work too, right? It can be, you can
Hmm.
do it with
Yeah.
another person, but just,
Hmm.
um, the reflecting and the willingness. I think if you take those two things together, remaining open, and also our willingness to be self-reflective, um,
Hmm.
those two things together allow a child to, I think, to experience us as trustworthy in
Hmm. Hmm.
in the
Yeah,
way that we go about,
yeah.
yeah, in the way we go about, I guess, pointing out those garden walls, if we call them that,
Hmm.
right? Like, here's the
Exactly.
garden that we're
It's the
creating.
boundaries. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, it is.
yeah, yeah.
And
Mhm.
because I know that my mother is still capable of talking to me about it and being with my questions around it and even
Hmm.
my resistance around it, and is also able to reflect on it. And I just think those two pieces are so vitally important to what it means to also keep that experience of love alive in the
Mm.
relationship.
Yeah,
And then, I mean, there's that element of it, and I think just what
yeah.
even just our nervous systems, our emotional systems, our unconsciouses are experiencing of one another
Hmm.
when we come from that place is
Yeah,
important. And then there is just, I guess, there's also at the behavioural level, the kind of just the modelling, like as you're talking about,
yeah.
we are
Modeling
showing
it.
our children in that moment a way to be with those things that
Yeah.
is, again, stored somewhere, depending on the age, like in terms
Hmm.
of like conscious awareness of it. It is
Hmm.
stored somewhere as a template in a way that they can then be and meet those things within themselves and other
Mm.
relationships in their life.
Mm.
So there is, yeah, just I really liked when you were talking at the start about the idea of the garden that you're creating, with your children and your family, and that there
Mm.
are walls,
Yeah.
and there is something around with the trust piece with all of this,
Mm.
the intuitive sense that a child has, I think, around
Mm.
knowing that the wall that we're pointing out here is one that that comes from that deep sense of our beliefs in the role as a mother and a wife and part of this family, as opposed to that's what would suit me right now. Like it's coming from somewhere else. Like that's what's good for me right now, and I just need you to toe the line because I just need that. Which also happens. Like I don't want to imply, also happens and whatever, and then there's times where maybe that's required, right? But I think that difference is discernible somewhere inside, and you have to you have to be able to do both those things. Otherwise, a child just learns that it's mostly when my mum needs me to be a particular way for her own emotional regulation that she points these things out, and then you're learning all sorts of silencing and torturous ways of what it means to be in a relationship with another person and who you have to become to be in a relationship with another person and how you can make sense of yourself. So that's all important. What's this thing I've written here? Oh, when you were talking about, I think what you're saying is like noticing how at this moment in your life you're becoming more aware of, I think, like what it means to be a woman, more like sort of more integrating in the wife, like that it's not just mother. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. It's kind of like, I know it sounds so basic, but it's almost like my own self.
Yeah.
Because remember too, I mentioned that being an identical twin. So it's almost like a differentiation of my own self that I don't it's like just it's that. It's just simply that, like being able to see the work and the value of showing up fully as myself. And this trust piece is so interesting to me because a lot of times if you don't have a good sense of yourself, which I know is like such a loaded thing, like what does that mean? But the way that Julia Cameron talks about it in The Artist Way is really your creative self. It's like that's like your inner child, like it's that person there that's been with you this whole time. Yeah. And it's like it's not as if I feel like it's not there, wasn't there, but like I think there's a lot of like when you're dealing with a big learning curve and then you're forgetting that, like you're so busy kind of trying to learn that maybe you forget that, like, hey, that cultivation of self is just as important as all the things you're learning in your motherhood, because you this, okay, for example, like an example, the trust piece, it's going to be very difficult, I think. Like, okay, it may sound abstract, but I think you'll probably resonate with, or maybe you can understand what I'm trying to say here with this, but a child will have a hard time trusting you if you don't trust yourself.
Yes.
A child will have a hard time listening to you if you're not listening to yourself.
Yes.
So if you're not listening to yourself, if you're not listening to the still small voice inside of you, or the thing that you feel compelled to do, or whatever, or you're not facing certain fears, like it will literally show up in your kids and how they're processing things. And that's so vital because so yeah, I guess things like that. That's where I'm feeling like, wow, like I didn't really realize this so much until now. And I almost feel like it's almost a little I don't know if it's late in the game. Like I said, I'm trying to just trust that the timing works out the way it does for certain reasons. But it's just kind of like, oh wow, these, for example, like doing Julia Cameron's morning pages, and there's some other things too. Like I'm very blessed to be a part of a community that, and it's, for lack of a better world term, is like in the holistic health realm. But I love what Corey does, and she runs a program called Rooted Families, really fantastic. And through that as well, which started with just sort of a summer sort of challenge that I joined in on in the summer. And it's a lot about like kind of movement, getting outside, sun, grounding, like those types of things that I think are really important and matter. But yeah, it really kind of, it just kind of, wow, like it cascaded like this shift in me, and it was huge. And I just, it's so exciting and so cool. And to see all that's kind of coming, like just continuing to come forth from that. And um, yeah, like I think there's just something really, really exciting to know about just I mean, again, it's, I think from like a mainstream perspective, it's like we sometimes know these things intellectually, but as soon as you start to give other type of languaging to it, it's like, whoa, that it sort of feels woo woo. Like the fact that something that is showing up in your child, even symptomatically, could actually be because of you as a mother and the things you're not dealing with or have are whatever it is, fearful to deal with, or scared, or don't know what you're doing, or whatever, or you're
Mm-hmm.
like but it's true. It just is absolutely true that this is a reality. And some people might dismiss that, and people might say that's interesting, and some people might say, yeah, absolutely, like I completely 100% agree with that. But I think there's something really powerful about that, and sort of realizing what a simple but profound truth that is, and then being like, how did I not like know like that? How did I not really know that? And I guess that's just why like it's so important. Daniel has a great essay in our collection. I forget which thoughts it is. We have like first thoughts, second thoughts, or we have
Oh,
thoughts,
I'm
second
looking forward to the
thoughts,
third
third
one
thoughts.
that I can't.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
And there's an essay in there about something like, don't ask has it been said, ask has it been heard. And that's a powerful like reframing, because so often we're like, oh well, everybody already knows that, or oh, everybody already knows that. No, they don't. Not everybody has heard these things. And I think that though I feel as though I'm pretty open and learn and keep reading into my adulthood and in my motherhood, there's still things where I'm like, wow, like that's such a powerful insight. And yeah, again,
Yes.
it's happening in a divine timing, I do believe. But yeah, there's sort of a way in which like, whoa, that would have been really helpful to know a little bit ago.
Yeah, but it wasn't
However,
meant for
now
them. It wasn't meant for
exactly,
them.
exactly.
Really
And
not.
so it's like you learn something, like you're becoming the person you are because of that specific timing, and that's a beautiful thing. And but yeah, it's yeah, I hope that
Amazing.
my kind of bubbling over of like the excitement is um I don't know, is kind of like understandable, or like it can be intellectualized, not intellectualized, what's the word? I hope it's not unintelligible, but what I'm
No.
trying to express is just the effervescent excitement of what it means to be fully present as a mother, in being fully present to yourself and in yourself, and how much that's a gift to your children, to your husband, to your family, because it's just it's a very big deal. And I think sometimes for me, maybe what has kept me from that is like confusion around um, selfishness and selflessness. Those things in particular, I think, have gotten me quite confused on this in this area. And Daniel's got a great concept on self-forgetfulness.
Yes.
And so yeah, just I think
Yeah.
there have been many things in which, perhaps I had certain like I don't know, advantages in certain regards, because I have been very open to a philosophical life that have helped me tremendously. I mean, tremendously on certain things that I was, really needed some major work on, uh, like maybe 10 years ago. So I feel like there have been advancements there, and I'm grateful for that. It's just kind of very cool. I guess that's the main thing. I've known a lot of stuff, but I haven't done it. And now when I'm actually doing it, it changes it's there's such an energy
Yes.
creation from that, and it's so for lack of a better word, it's just cool. It's exciting. It's a wonderful experience, and I wish it for everybody to be able to feel that ability to have a very profound like hope, excitement, uh, sense of their own capacity and power of what they can create. You can
It
do that.
feels like it sounds like what you're describing is Eros. Like it sounds
Yeah.
like it's just
Yes.
so wonderful to hear you. When you talk about it, I can sense it.
How many
Um,
times did I say the word cool though?
yeah,
Or
well, yeah.
exciting?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It is. It is. It is.
And nobody's counting, don't worry.
I'll do the
Like
count
a little, you have
timer.
like a tally
Yeah,
mark
yeah,
on
yeah.
your wall.
But it's like it's such a wonderful thing to witness and hear you talk about there because
Mm,
it sounds like you're regenerating inside or something
yeah.
like it's just this
Mm,
like flourishing and kind of fruiting and I don't like it's you've become
mm,
alive maybe in a slightly
yeah.
different way.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think, and I'm starting, well, I have been starting to experience the same thing, which is why I think in the
Mm,
recent kind of contact we had, where I was talking about kind of
yes.
reflecting on our last conversation and how in
Mm,
one way, not much time has passed, and yet I feel so different even just as a woman, and we're
same.
like same, and
Yeah.
and it's a similar process, I think. Um,
Hmm.
Obviously it's going to be different for everyone, but there is something in the I've seen anyway, there is something in the pattern that um, I think it's not until children start to get a bit older, at least the eldest starts to get a bit older,
Mm,
I think that a woman starts this bit happens.
Mm,
and it will be
mhm.
different for everyone. Um,
Yeah.
but I think if you have only very, very young children or a very, very young child, the only way I can sort of think it, I don't know, the only way I can put words to it is you're kind of just holding on. Like there's something about, in those really young ages, you know, when you just got a baby,
Mm,
there is a moment to moment awareness that is required of
yeah.
you
Yes.
to make sure that child
Yes.
remains alive physically. You know, like
Yeah.
it's true. And
Yeah.
then that starts to change, obviously, as they get older and older and older gradually. I
Mm,
mean, I do think
mm,
there is something about that gradual change and what it does free up, maybe from an attention and just a very real time perspective,
mm,
that then maybe gives greater probability that you are going to
mm,
be able to reconnect in this way inside or experience things like this
mm, mm,
more. But
mm,
it's also, I think, just the passing of time where you have been
mm,
like that,
mhm.
or at least for
Yeah.
me, the like, oh, just the holding on and it's really just getting through day by day,
Mm,
and becoming more comfortable and confident with the level of minute decision making at every moment and all of those
exactly.
things. And there is a passage of time that passes, I think, or at least there was for me, where I was able to, I think because it had been such a chunk of time, I think I started to develop a feeling in response to that, like a longing for what about these other aspects of me? What about this?
Mm, mm,
Like,
mm,
there's almost like a loneliness that starts to develop from somewhere
mm,
inside.
mm,
I don't know if this is
mm,
making sense.
mhm,
If you
mhm,
think about that part of you, that kind of like
mm,
youngest version of self that's sitting in
mhm,
there and is like wants to be fully alive, right?
mm,
I think it starts to become more insistent somehow from
mm,
and
mm,
calling out. And so I think there is also a becoming aware of that, and its eventual breakthrough that,
mm,
for me anyway, and a pattern I've seen also tends to coincide with a certain age where your eldest reaches that you also
mm,
do.
mm.
And because you've been through that process, even if you have younger children, I think
Yeah.
it sort of opens up a bit more of a possibility space that you could even listen to
Mm,
that signal, do something more about it,
mm,
become attuned to it in a different way, and see how it
mm.
relates to mothering. I just think
Yeah.
mothering is such an abstract thing until you're in it. And
Yeah.
then even
Yeah.
when you're in it, it's still, I don't know, and then it's like that for a
Mm,
long time.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, I'm just so pleased to hear that you've been
Yeah.
experiencing that, um,
Yeah.
and
Thank
how
you,
much that
Cecilia.
sort of brought you to life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that for you as well. And yeah, there's something about like Julia Cameron talks in the book about like you'll kind of mourn the fact that in a sense it's almost that like what what there could be those questions of like why couldn't I have why couldn't it have been something of a sooner to this. But again, I think there's something like I've learned profound things in all of this all of the seasons that motherhood brings. And
Mm,
yeah, it's
mm.
it's interesting now, like with having a baby, but also older, like
Yeah.
the ages, the different ages that the children are at. It's really fun and special, and it's neat to see the way that they all they also literally do help out in the sense of just wanting to play with the baby or sit with him or hold him, and it's like, wow, like there's such a, I don't know, there's just something that like feels more like, wow, we're in this together. Like I'm not trying to put some like burden on my children that they shouldn't have in terms of helping or whatever, but they willingly desire to have these roles,
Yeah, and it's an
of
important
like,
thing. When they want to
yeah,
do it, it's important to actually, yeah,
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 for them to feel like, yeah, you can do that, and that's awesome, and you are the big brother, the big sister,
right.
the biggest, the oldest brother, or whatever. And it's a joy to see the way that they interact with one another and with the baby who's doing all these new like developmental things, or like
Yes.
whatever. Is just like they were cheering
Can
tonight
I
about
just
how you
say
seem.
that
Mm,
more and more, I've come to see how important that is. That, and
mm,
again, not from like a pressured place of, well, you need to help, but like if they are showing an
yeah,
interest,
yeah,
that you not only facilitate that, but also sort of in awe with them about it and like, wow, is
yeah,
because I think, and again, this sort of comes from just seeing, I guess, adults and
mm,
I think there's something about the trade, like obviously when you are one of the older siblings and the new younger sibling comes along, that means something
Mm.
for the availability and the attention that you otherwise used to have from your mother, right? You know,
Yeah.
and I only have two, so I sort of think about it in quite simple ways. Like, you know, obviously for my
Hmm.
eldest, it's like, oh, now there's a baby, which means that this like very one-on-one relationship I always had with my mum is significantly changed because she's over here with the
Yeah.
baby too. I think the trade, like there needs
Mm.
to be something else that happens for that child that feels important relationally too. And me
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if they want to be part of that, that's so important. Do you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
Because
Oh,
that allows them to fill
absolutely.
in kind of the
Yeah.
hole, I guess, or the thing that
Hmm.
changes in terms of having mum all the time whenever I want her. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and I raise that because I think, once again, from a very well-intentioned place, there is a lot of messaging of, you know, we shouldn't make our children caretakers of our other children. It's like,
Hmm.
well, yes, if you're making them, and likewise,
Yeah.
right? But then
Right.
people overread that, and they're like, that means we have to do the opposite and insist that they don't.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and so no, but then you might take something away from them that
They
feels
did.
meaningful to them and can be, yeah, yeah, an
Oh,
important
yeah, like
role
where
that
they
they
feel
want to
it, the important role they want to play and they want to do. And yeah, like they willingly will say, like, can I, feed the baby his yogurt, or can I, whatever it is, like I'll watch the baby while you finish eat. I mean, just sweet things that
play.
are just offered. It's like what a blessing. And like they, like they were cheering tonight because the baby seemed to be putting the blocks away. How much of it that was he actually doing? But they were convinced that he'd learned to put the blocks back in the block box, and they were like cheering about it, and
This
it
is
was
making me
so
want to have
sweet.
another child now, Michelle. Just for the
We just gotta elevate the baby fever.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, don't worry. It's not going to be happening, but I have that moment inside, right? Of like, oh,
Mhm.
like I can feel that. I can feel that
Mhm.
experience of seeing your other children and like
Yeah.
oh, wow, that's incredible.
It's very cool. It's a very cool thing to see. I feel really blessed to see it and to witness it and see how much it matters and how much joy is brought. Like my mother-in-law would always say, love multiplies. And that's so true, And I think there's a great fear when I first went from one child to two, with like you're saying, where it's like, oh my gosh, like how are they gonna feel the love? And how am I gonna be able to like, I want them to both know how much I love them both, and like
Yes.
my attention's gonna be divided, and all of that. And I was there a lot of fear, like real fear about and anxiety around that. But my mother-in-law would just say, she's such a peaceful person, and would just always say, like, love multiplies. It's, encouraging me, it's going to be okay, and they'll know that they'll know your love, they'll feel your love. You'll get creative, you'll get creative with how you can attend to both in different, at the same time. You know what I mean? Like including them, including the older one with the baby, to including them in things that you're doing and talking with them, and so it's very possible. It just takes, yeah, that's the thing. It's this constant, like, you're, you're just kind of getting used to the way things are. Then you're kind of shifting it, and you're shifting it, and like you're constantly kind of growing through those processes. But yeah, it's really fun. And I mean, with the fourth, it's like they already are there's already siblings, and they come into siblinghood. So like it's a little bit of it feels almost a bit easier in that respect, because this is us, like this is our little crew, so that's neat. And actually, I was thinking on something you said earlier about um things getting easier or not. Like I mean, even at having, the fourth time postpartum, I mean, it's so funny to me because I'm just like, I know I've done this before. Like, I know I've like, do I know what I'm doing, in the sense of, I was like mapping my baby's sleep. Like, when was he sleeping? When was he, I mean, I'm not like, I'm a pretty free flow type of mom with that sort of thing,
You
but
should have seen.
I,
I found a piece of paper from my firstborn the other day that just had like, yeah, like just like times, like the feedings and the sittings and the like, and just like, and you, I can tell from my scrawling how crazy I am. Like it just,
just like,
I'm like circling and like left, right, and like yeah, it's just yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah, and like, it's for me, I'm very free flow. So for me, it was a sense of like, oh wait, I need to start, because I was like, I think the baby's quite tired right now, but he's having a hard time going to sleep. But
Mm.
how long? And I was like, you know what, I need to actually pay a bit more attention. Like, how long is he sleeping? How long has he been awake? When should I start to kind of wind him down for sleeping again, nursing and sleeping and all of the things? And so yeah, I mean, it's like, just because I have
You learn so
experience
much.
doesn't mean I don't like have those moments where I'm like, I literally like, I'm not sure, you know, you have this moment like, I'm not sure what I'm doing again. Like, don't I know this thing? Don't I know this? But right. But like, I had to kind of relearning, and also realizing that, yeah, for each child, it can be quite different. And something that helped was just, yeah, for me to sort of like pay a bit more attention. And after that, I was like, okay, right. They have these different kind of general sleep
Yeah.
stretches when they're this age versus this age versus this age. So that can be helpful. So you can pick up on their cues and what they're telling you. But it was just kind of funny because I'm like, this is my like, why do I feel like I'm struggling with this? But in
Yeah.
the end, it was perfectly fine, and it was a great learning opportunity. But it's just I'm saying that as like it's humbling, like, because even in all of your experience, you'll often face the unknown, the things that you're not sure exactly what to say, or you get a question that you sort of catches you off guard, and
Yeah.
you're asked to once again kind of be humble yourself and be like, okay, you're encountering it. You're just
Yes.
encountering that.
Yeah, and there's going to
Um,
be a grace to
yeah,
that as well too, right? Like it's
yeah,
the process of the relearning, right? The noticing,
yeah.
oh, I can't remember any of, or like I need to go back and go over things that
Mm,
I know I've already learned.
yeah,
Going back, relearning something from a different place is also,
yeah.
I just think there can be a grace in that because you pick up on, I mean, my mind is also sort of semi going to therapy now too, because this what you're describing there
Hmm.
happens all the time in therapy too. Because every
Really?
person you meet, it's a bit like,
Hmm.
oh, I know
Yes,
like how
yes.
this goes, but this is also an individual, and they're going to be
Yeah.
different. And so there are like these
Sure.
parameters, like you say, right? Like, oh, I learned that, usually generally it kind of goes like this, and there's these like kind of windows within which the person will
Mm,
fall for this phase and then that phase, but it's not always. And but
mm,
you can get stumped from time to time, or you can just have a moment when you're just human and you just say, oh, what am I supposed to be doing here? I've completely and so like you return to theory for a moment and you're like, what? And you're like,
mm.
oh, that's what I would
Yes.
say is the parallel to like the relearning. But every time I return to theory based on being kind of reflective about what happened in a session, I pick up something like a slightly different dimension to it, right? So even though I am still having like a refresher moment where I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, it goes like this. There's also, because of the position where I am in that moment, which is different to all the previous times that I've read it or gone over it, there's something usually slightly different about it that I pick up from it, or I understand it in a more complex manner. And so that is what I mean by that there is kind of that grace to it. And I think
Yeah.
in parenting, when you're in the thick of it, it can be hard to remember that. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is the humbling, like you say,
Yeah.
and also that it gives me an opportunity now to actually feel into how much more I also know now that I can bring to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I liked how earlier too you were talking about really a large part of what we're doing is teaching, right? We're teaching our children.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and just how interesting that is, because in order to teach something, you have to know what you're teaching first.
Oh, yeah.
Like you,
Yeah.
like so even when we were just talking about sleep, I have never learned so much about sleep just from like having an infant, both about my own, obviously,
Yeah.
and my need for it, which I didn't realize existed, and never realized how crazy I got without sleep before that, um, and and then just like even just the idea that I guess what I'm trying to say is it's remarkable to me that I went for however many years I went in life, not having children, knowing absolutely nothing about the existence of what happens for, like an infant sleep, right? That even exists in the world, that's a thing. And then you're just like, you're forced into this place where you're like, oh, like I had no idea this is how sleep works. I mean, it's the same with all of it, like breastfeeding, like just everything.
Yeah.
No idea
Yeah.
that this is how we all started in life, that these were my
Yeah.
very first needs and how my physiology
Hmm.
worked at the beginning,
Hmm.
that mothers every day all around the world are doing this and going through this and thinking about this. And I was just going along in my life, blissfully unaware that that even existed. And, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Mm.
it is incredible to me that we are, motherhood, parenthood is essentially we become almost overnight in a moment responsible for teaching a
Yes.
whole lot of
Yes.
stuff that we don't even know yet, or have verbalized or figured out for ourselves, didn't even know it was a
Yeah.
thing to learn about, to have to teach one day.
Mm-hmm.
and what we do with
Yeah.
that pressure. Like there's a pressure to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a weightiness to that. And what do
Mm-hmm.
we do with that? Um,
Oh yeah.
and those
Oh
very
yeah.
first resistances that I think can go up around that, and ways that we try to um, lighten the reality of that somehow, or something, to
Mm-hmm.
take, which can be like taking care of ourselves.
And I think too the way in which there's so much there, because again
Mm,
uh, I don't mean to be redundant, because I don't know, there's a part of me it's almost like um to say this idea of like kind of coming into it now. um Again, I don't want to say that there hasn't been a lot of work that's happened. There has been, like, I've learned a lot of things, and I've done my best to implement, a lot of things that I've learned. um but yeah, I think it's just like, again, there may be just an element of it where time is doing its work on you.
mm,
And this, even because it's so fraught and caught up with everything we've experienced in our lives thus far, in our own childhoods, and how we viewed our own parents, how we viewed how their marriage, how they handle things, your sibling, all of those things kind of go into what you're kind of like equipped with then. And you're kind of like, oh, this is what I've got. And I don't think that, like, a lot of times people are just sort of doing what they know. They know that, so they do that, even if they taking the time to step back and say, like, wait, is this effective? Is this actually what I want to be doing? Is this what we want for our family? Like, those are the questions that are so huge and helpful and fundamental. And yet it's almost like, yeah, it's this sort of trying to, just like you're saying, especially with young children, just try to do each day. And then you're like, oh, I don't know, there's almost something that it's definitely being thrown, like the thrownness. I guess that's in Heidegger, that concept of like just being thrown into things, and you're kind of thrown into things. And then you're like, oh, I have to figure this out. And oh, wait, what do I believe about these things? And what do I like? And then you're also trying to think about like your husband, and what
mm,
his own very unique background and experiences are, and belief systems might be around things. And so, um, yeah, like that's another thing I've been thinking about. I mean, not explicitly, but just came to my brain. But like it has generally been something that's really interesting to me, is how many belief systems we do have. Like, it's not just enough to know, like, does the person believe in God or not, or are they this faith or that faith? It's like, I'm not saying like that doesn't matter. Of course that matters, but like in the sense of, it does tell you something about them. But there's so all these like microcultures that exist within even one family, or within one town, or within one street. Like, there's all these micro cultures of how things have been done for a certain family versus your family. And then there's many, like, again, there's different individuals within that family, and can respond differently. And so it's just really,
and how
really
stable
interesting
is
that
it? Like how stable
was
it
a
and how stable it
yeah,
is. So like
yeah,
is your husband, does he behave in line with those beliefs no matter who
hmm,
he's around? Or
yeah, yeah,
when, I don't know, some certain relative is there and whatever, then it all changes, and like there is like this,
yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, anyway, continue.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point too. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variance even
Yeah.
within that, and like, because even that would be a belief system on how much you should perform or change, or your persona, like what persona do you use for this, that, or the other. So it's like, I guess for me, it's like, wow, like belief systems are at play, and there's so many things that people believe that undergirth everything that we do. So it's not just like, there are many, many different belief systems around different things, and like the ability to like sit quietly with yourself and think, oh, what do I believe about that? And what does my husband believe about that? What do we want to believe about this together? Like, it's huge. It's a huge and important work. But again, it's not really like, nobody kind of,
No,
like, if I'm just frank, like, nobody really, this isn't like, nobody tells you this in
no,
premarital counseling. Like, this
no.
isn't talked about. And yet it's so huge and so important. And I think like it's the beauty of philosophy for me is that is doing that. Like, it's really trying to do that. It is doing that work. I think the best philosophy is going to be doing that work, like where it's actually saying, hey, like, we all have these deep questions, and we all have these things that kind of like orient our lives, and it's these ideas we have, and all of that. So that's why, to me, like, philosophy can be so powerful and such a great unifying thing for spouses, because,
Yeah.
like, I love it with Daniel, because we have so much that we talk about and can talk about, and anything's like fair game, and we can just do this sort of like fun synergistic conversation on anything. And so I think that's always really, really just a gift. It's been a gift to me, and it's a gift that I hope other people could experience or understand. As like, as odd as it sounds, it's like, um, I'm not saying that this isn't to negate other therapies for marriage and whatnot, but I'm like, have you tried philosophy? Like, so
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, have you tried that? Because it's like, there can be something really, really big there, and really shifting the way you relate to your spouse or your loved ones, and
I think
how you
that
relate to
term,
yourself.
I think that
Yeah.
term can just be so loaded, and
Philosophy.
misunderstood. That's the problem. Yeah, yeah, philosophy.
Oh
Philosophy,
yeah.
yeah, it means 1,000 different things to different people, and I think is
Yeah.
often, yeah, just associated with just dry. You need to read lots of theory. You
Stuffy
can
and
only cite
yeah.
philosophers, and like I think that's what people think it is. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sounds like, yeah, like old white men, like, in ancient
Mhm.
Greece, in a, you know. I think that's what a lot of people associate it with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's funny you say this because like Daniel and I have our first episode of season 2 coming out tomorrow for OG Rose Conversations. Very excited about that. And
yeah.
we are talking about why philosophize. And there's almost a part of me that feels like, uh, I don't know, you just think of how people might respond to that and sort of like, yeah, is it okay to use that term if you're kind of slowing down to, rethink something or to think something in a new way. Um,
Yes.
like you're saying, if you're not quoting Hegel, like, is it philosophy, right? Like, there are so many connotations that philosophy, and it's funny how much philosophy does in the mainstream just get relegated
Oh,
to
yeah.
this kind of. It's just about like being like you're kind of just so far removed from everyday life when philosophy is about everyday life. It's about being, it's about existence, it's about all of our burning questions that we have as human beings. And it's
And
like
what do we
that's
do
what
with that?
philosophy.
How do we work
Yeah,
through that? And
exactly. How do we work through that? How do we
how do
think
we
through that? How
imagine?
do we
And yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, to me that's the fun and beauty of philosophy and why we need it so much. And it's truly the love of wisdom.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you can really experience love in the right way without wisdom.
No,
I don't think you can.
no.
So just to me, it's like it's so crucial and so important. And yeah, I think that
Yeah, I have.
anyway, just I guess I was bringing all this up because it's like even the concept of how in those early years of motherhood and the young years and like how you're relating to your spouse and how you're being able to clearly communicate and all of that stuff is like, again, that's another area where you're literally like fish out of water. You're never have had to do it before, and now you're doing it under circumstances where you feel tired. You might be tired, you might be like being stretched a bit in terms of like your capacity. And so yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for just like all of the, like we talked about, this grace, this growing together, this learning together that husband and wives can do, and the realization of like, yeah, like we're literally still figuring this out.
Yeah, and you're
um
really, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, was there more? I don't want to cut you off.
No, no, just to say like that. Yeah, I think that because it's just so interesting how assumptions keep you from being able to access the um, the the ability to get each other's backs, if you will, because if you can't like question your own assumptions around that stuff, you may not actually be like as much in sync as you could be. Like you could not be relying on each other as much as you could be. That would really be beneficial to you both, because not because of the other person. And that's the thing. Society always just wants us to blame the other person. It's your fault. It's their fault. No, it's yourself in your own assumptions that you feel that you've kind of enclosed yourself in. And that's where you, again, philosophy does the work of like starting to pick away at those assumptions. Like, what are you believing here? What do you think is the case? Maybe it actually is completely different than you think. And so, yeah, anyways,
And
that's really
how,
important too.
mm,
Yeah,
I was just going to say, and how disempowering it is to find yourself always, oh, it's everyone else's fault. Like that actually just leaves you in a completely helpless position, doesn't it? Right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, there's so much. There's so much I want to say. Very briefly, the other thing I think that happens too that doesn't get enough discussion, that's really, really important to highlight, is that when your first child comes along, right, first baby, and so you're a husband and wife, and then you have your first baby. Yes, the nature of your relationship changes in lots of ways, and there's types of conversations and things going on that there weren't before, and sleep
Mhm.
deprivation. But also it introduces another person into the dynamic. And actually,
Mm,
this is a
mm,
context that is ripe for a whole lot of like suppressed like jealousy, envy, um,
mm,
y- dynamics to do with, hold on, that's my partner, now they're being taken away, or is this person more important to my partner now? Like, and just underlying stuff that comes up. I think that's important, but we can save that one for another day. The things that you're
It's a good one though.
describing, the things that you're describing here, take me back to where we started around the qualities of a conversation that we are having with our children, where I believe that they are able to, they pick up somewhere in their physiology that we are coming from a place that is to do with their well-being. So what I mean by that is we're talking again about our ability to be self-reflective with our partner, to be open with our partner, and also patience.
Yeah.
Patience is the other
Yeah.
really important thing here. And the slowing down, like the slowing down you're talking about in terms of being able to sit with your partner, and you have to slow down to be able to catch what are the assumptions I'm making here? What are the
Yeah.
ones you are making? What are our beliefs? What's our shared family, going to be about with this?
Yeah.
That requires time, and
Yeah.
it's not just time, it's the pace too, right? There's a patience because it's not a depends. It depends, but oftentimes there are moments, at least in those conversations, where you really are having to wait and feel it out and grasp for things, and it's not just a let's sit down like at a boardroom meeting and kind of work through the agenda items, and like it's all very kind, it's got a different relationship to timing to it, which I think is important because a lot of people don't like that, or it gives them then they can write it off as, well, I don't have time for it. Like, I don't have time for those leisurely conversations where we try to figure out our assumptions about each other. And, like they can write it off in that way, right?
Yeah.
I'm too busy with my to-do list and my 4 kids and, and all the other things. When we are, I bring it up because I think the parallel is quite obvious. So like when we are with our children trying to, and they're being resistant to something that we're pointing out that, no, you can't do that in this family. That's not, that also requires patience, and
Oh
I
yeah.
think part of what leads us to do the very quick, short, sharp, no, just do what I need you to do is, again, because it's fast. So
Oh yeah.
so patience,
Oh yeah.
our willingness to be open, our level of openness, which involves, being able to tolerate ambiguity. What do we do when we sit with ambiguity? What do we do when we sit with difference? What do we do when we sit with visceral physiological responses in our body that might catch us off guard even?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and we're with another person, and our ability to be reflective, our willingness as well. Like sometimes people have, they've got their capacity to be self-reflective is actually really good, but there is like an unwillingness to do it in relationship with another or reveal it to another because that
Yeah.
feels like a weakness. So it's also our
Yeah.
willingness to be with our partner and do the self-reflecting in front of them and with them, and share that with them in real time and trust that they're not going to take advantage of that or manipulate that or see that as, oh, so whatever I say, you're willing to consider. So if I just kind of throw that, because people can, right?
Yeah.
And so, and people have been taken advantage of in the past in their lives in that way. And so they learn to not do that again with a partner. So these qualities are really, really important to be cultivating. That is obviously what you're describing when we were talking about, the manner in which we have these conversations with our children, so that, here's the direct line, so that when they have a partner one day and their first baby arrives, these things are much more intuitive to them, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to go, oh, like that's the hope,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the exciting thing too, is like it's not just an excitement for me and like this sort of like, this, and maybe it sounds it's a bit like a overblown statement, but yeah, kind of coming more into yourself. Like you're saying, the regenerating. I think that's actually a perfect word.
Yes.
That's what it feels like, and it's very exciting. But it's not just exciting for me. It's exciting to me because of the impact it can have again for my children, for their whatever their futures hold for them, like for the fact that they can learn certain things that I have the now the I when you step up and you're like, okay, it is my responsibility to teach certain things and to be certain in like to be a certain way in the world. for their sake and for their ability to see that's possible, that is possible, and that it can, there are ways to try. And it's also just like there are ways to go about that give you, that equip you better, so that you do have a greater and a more well laid foundation for your own, say you do get married one day and you have your children, you can lay a very solid foundation together. Um, and that's really cool. And there's ways to do that. And there's conversations that can be had. There are even prompts that can be considered together that are really, again, but that's the thing. It can be scary though, because it's like, that's vulnerability. That's what if the person doesn't want to do the prompt, whatever. And, you just have to keep pressing into that. Like, this expressing about how, hey, this is something that's where it's kind of, this is them
You
just
don't.
stepping up as self, is to be able to make assertions lovingly, and I think
Yeah.
for as I guess it's just, that's the funny thing is um realizing that's a good thing, it's a necessary thing, it's an important thing to do, and nobody's ever wanted you to do otherwise.
Yeah.
And yet somehow you were keeping yourself from doing that, thinking that that was
Type of
like the right
self-death.
thing to do.
Yeah, it's a type of self-death and a type of
Yeah.
self-neglect and self-dismissal, um,
Hmm.
to not be doing that, to not be,
Yeah.
right?
But it's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean,
No,
I'm
no,
like
go, go, go,
totally,
go, please. No.
but I think what's so interesting is that I think like that is so true what you're saying. But it's funny because I think I did sometimes fall into quite a bit of a victim
Yeah.
mindset sometimes around that, which is so, I hate to admit that, but I'll be honest, I'll just be, I feel like I've been somewhat transparent through this call on certain things that are kind of going on for me or that are live for me. I hope that can be helpful to
Of
people.
course.
But I think that, yeah, there's a lot of times where it's like this self-denial is again projected as somebody else's doing, or somebody else um
Yeah. They
causing it or
silence
whatever.
me. They wouldn't let,
Yeah,
or they
exactly. But
don't
it's
want
like,
to hear it from me. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like that couldn't be further from the truth. And you allow yourself to believe some lie because it's safer.
Yeah.
It's safer to believe that you can't talk, or you whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, you can talk, you should talk, you need to speak. And you have always been welcome to speak, actually. And so it's just so fascinating to me the way the brain kind of does this sort of
Yep.
deception,
Yep.
and the self-deception, as Daniel will talk about, which is so powerful. And how you really have to, it's not from your victimhood that you get out of that, it's from you realizing what you can do and what you have done to yourself in many respects, and what you can do for yourself.
How
And then
powerful you
seeing
are.
how,
How
yeah, how
powerful you are.
powerful, how like just the immense power you have. And that also everything around you, like Daniel and I got to this in our conclusion of the talk that we'll release tomorrow on philosophizing your life. But there's this beauty in realizing that everything is for you. So everything, like, I don't mean, it's not in a kind of conquest type of way. It's more this humbling, like, no, you need it. It's for you in the sense that you need to learn from that, and you can learn from that. Um, but
Yeah.
you won't be able to learn from that fully if you are not going to do the action of being fully present, fully showing up as yourself, fully doing that. And you have full permission to do that, no matter the circumstance, no matter what, no matter if a person understands or doesn't understand, you can still show up and trust them. Especially if it's in a loving relationship, like they love you. So
Yes.
of course you can trust.
And not
And
giving up on
oh,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Continuing to try and to
yeah,
express yourself and to
yeah,
return and to be there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's so, I think too, like a lot of times, the person can have shown you that really you are very much capable of doing that, and you're free to do that. But again, like this is where childhood does play a big
Yes.
role, because sometimes if you've seen otherwise in another example that was so formative to you, you somehow just project that on somebody. And it's really unfair, honestly. It's really not right. But we do this as humans often because, it's like that thing that was serving us for that time, or what seemed to serve someone in that situation. We take that on
Yeah.
because it's more familiar. It's actually easier, and even though it seems like yeah, it's like what Daniel will say, like hell is locked from the inside, so it's just kind of like, but when you realize, oh, I don't have to ascribe to that, I don't have to believe that, I can actually do differently, I can actually show up. It's a game changer. And it's also, yeah, there is so much power in that. um And
You have
yeah.
to have enough experiences of going through it, just as you described there, where you have that self-reflective capacity online to be able to
Mm,
say, oh, look what just happened there, you know,
mm.
like you know, in what happened yesterday, actually, like I think I was back in that template, or I was back in that place
I
of,
slipped back into it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that I
Mm-hmm.
experienced my partner again in that way, right? With that kind of like template over the top of, oh, that must mean that
Mm-hmm.
they want nothing to do with me, or that they're being
Mm-hmm.
dismissive, or they would never understand, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, whatever it is. The fact that you are able to do that is just vitally important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is, I mean, what you're just describing there is really just the heart of all of this is our willingness to accept that those things are even at play, and that
Yeah.
the feelings and the interpretations and assumptions that I have about my partner in any given moment are not necessary, that they are at varying degrees of realistic,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
depending on lots of other things that are going on. And there are actually ways to be able to tune into my body and tune into the relationship that I can
Mm-hmm.
reliably use to try and discern where I am there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but you have to have enough experiences of that to feel that it's reliable and or trustworthy in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing, I'm not expressing this well, but that's the thing that helps to catch you in real time in a moment where you go, oh, it's possible that that what's happening right now is actually just, you know, I'm experiencing my partner as my father again or something, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be happening right now, right? Because,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but you can't do that until you have enough experiences of it, is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's true, and that's a really good point. And I actually that relates, like I resonate with that too when it comes to the calm topic, right?
Yes.
Like was saying this idea of like, I don't know that I've actually really like, yeah, okay, I've been calm, but like there's a new level. I don't know, it's almost like maybe it's just a new level of it that I feel like I'm being called into and like stepping into, where it's like, oh, I'm noticing like heart racing. Like there's certain things in your
Yes.
body that you're feeling. I'm like, this is what it feels like to have to really get calm, like, and you feel it, and it's wild, but it's also like, whoa, if you just pay attention and slow down a little bit and let yourself take some deep breaths, and like, what are you experiencing right then? It's like, oh, you're not calm, and you're trying to get calm, and your heart is racing a bit, and you're getting nervous or whatever it is, and it's
And it's
like,
the body, right? That's it. Like, and
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's three things you just said again. Like, it's the patience, it's the slowing down and saying, actually,
mm-hmm,
to do this, I'm going to slow down right now and pay attention.
yeah,
And being reflective and being open, right? Because the open is important. You're willing to see what's there. You're not hoping that it's
yeah,
going to be this. I'm hoping that I'm going to find. Like, it's just, I'm actually doing it from an open place because I want to know what it is, as opposed to
mm,
fingers crossed that it's, I don't know, something of other feelings. Yeah. Yeah. That all I
yes.
find is loving and kindness for my children. That's all that's there. It's like fingers crossed. Yeah. So again, sorry, I keep butting in, but it is like every time you talk, I just hear those things again.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder if there is something, it almost sounds like there is something about the experience of motherhood
Mm,
after a period of time
mm,
that almost works in this therapeutic process. Sorry, working in this therapeutic way, or at least like what you're
mm,
describing. And I know, I don't think you're trying to imply that's all just come from your experience of motherhood. You're obviously more than just a mother, and there's lots of other aspects to you, and you do lots of other things, and you know.
mhm,
But there is something about what you're describing there that sounds like some of the insights that you've come to in this new kind of
mm,
way of experiencing yourself
mhm,
kind of mimics a lot of what I'm doing in this particular therapeutic process that I use.
mm, mm, mm.
Um, and,
Interesting.
and has helped you to be able to develop your self-reflective capacity, if we call it that,
Yeah,
in real
yeah.
time,
Mhm,
has somehow intuitively helped you to use your body as the starting point of that.
mhm, mhm,
Um,
mhm, mhm.
Openness, this patience, this slowing down, the willingness to take an honest look, the willingness to take into account that there might be things you don't want to see or would be confronting to see, and like all this stuff. You know, yeah, it does sound like, um, as well as all the other things that you do and all the other parts of you, perhaps there is something about the way that you have approached motherhood that has
Mhm.
allowed that too to happen. I think
Mhm.
that's,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, the patience is such a key piece, and I go back
Yeah.
to, we were talking
Yeah.
about having a patient mother,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
patience is actually a really hard one. I mean, maybe I'm
Mhm.
biased because it's always been a bit of a struggle for me. But patience, well, actually, no, it's not. I shouldn't say it's a hard one for me in certain ways, but in other ways, I'm actually extremely patient, and I don't know how I can be. So, anyway,
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Oh, should I go that way or? No, my mind's spinning in multiple directions. Um, Yeah, what I was gonna say briefly before that took me off track a little is that
Mhm.
patience is one that I think can be trickier to help a person cultivate
Mm.
if they
Mm.
haven't already had the experience um,
Mm.
for a large
Mm.
chunk of their life.
Mm.
So for a new parent, as an example.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, I think what I'm talking about for myself there in terms of patience, in some ways I'm okay with, is there are, and I've talked about this before, there are, and this links to some things that you said near the start, there is this way that I just have a trust, and this links to
Yeah.
gratitude that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I just have this trust and kind of faith and like the timing and things unfold as they do, and they're given to you at a particular moment.
Mm.
And
Mhm. Yeah.
um, that has allowed me some sense of peace in that regard, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Whereas I see a
Mhm.
lot of, like I see a lot of other people, that's something that they struggle with a lot.
Mm.
It's a lot of like
Mhm.
wishing for, or resisting against, or I don't know how to
Mm.
phrase that exactly.
Yeah.
And that links to me with the gratitude. You were talking earlier about just how much gratitude you're feeling at the moment, and like what a one,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
I experience that a lot, and that's not the same thing as saying that I don't also have really like hard stuff and
Yeah.
challenges, and there aren't times
Right.
when I'm still feeling anxious
Mhm. Mhm.
and down and like all sorts of things.
Mm.
But what never goes away is I have this immense gratitude all the time
Mm.
for things, and it's
Mhm.
not something that I've like cultivated through some sort of like gratitude
Mm. Practice.
mindfulness practice or
Yeah.
and so
Gratitude
I'm very
journaling.
thankful for it. I'm very grateful for the for the intuitive gratitude. um, but I do really feel how that holds me. Like I do,
Mhm. Mhm. Same.
I can't imagine life without that.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's huge.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I resonate with that a lot, and I'm grateful for your grateful I'm grateful for
yeah,
your intuitive gratitude.
yeah,
And I mean that in all seriousness because it is like I experience it as a gift as well. So like it's also a gift to see in others and experience through them or see in them.
yeah.
Um, I will say really quick, like I know we didn't really get around to homeschooling very
No,
much
another time,
this
next conversation. Yeah,
yeah, we'll have to plan another talk, and hopefully sooner than however many months had gone by before, or years.
we will. We'll get to it sooner now. Look, we're regenerated
Yeah,
women.
we're regenerating. Yeah, like we're
Watch
gonna do
out.
this.
Yeah.
Watch out, world.
That's right. It's going to be every hour a new one coming out.
That's right. Yeah, but actually, I'll just say really quick that patience and trust is a big part of like that scene I had on the reel where everybody's just kind of around the table and
Yeah.
genuinely reading or talking or whatever, painting, whatever it is. Like it really is it does feel like it's quite a process of trust and patience and just kind of cultivating an environment with, the curiosity there that's alive and also yeah, I think like as parents who, we have philosophical conversations or they see us reading things or they do that, like I think that can also rub off too a bit. Like, I'm not saying it's necessarily that way, but there's also like times when you're like, where it
Mm.
doesn't necessarily feel that way. It's not like every moment is like some, hallmark, whatever moment of everybody's
Don't break the
learning.
illusion. Don't break the illusion. That's what.
Well, I guess too, I accept that like we're always learning. Like we literally are always learning things. So it's really like I don't know, but I'm just trying to say that like it's really to me, I think I've been really realizing how much it's like, yes, just keep at it in terms of trusting that process because your kids will come around to certain things and it may take them time. And, they're also realizing what they need to come around to for their own calling on this earth. And so it's like just allowing that to unfold and not worry that they might, even have negative things to say about the word learning, like at certain stages, just because they want to, they're kind of exercising their will against that or whatever. It's like, no, it's okay. Like, just let it be. Like, let it flow, let it ride, and continue with your own belief, and your own, practice of the power of learning. And, that is something that they can see and they can experience too. And that can go a long way. But yeah, it's pretty neat to see like the way that they just take interest in certain things and, ask certain questions and are open. Like, I love hearing their ideas. I just love hearing what they think about it, So there's a lot more to it. There is a lot more to it in terms of homeschooling and all of that. But
so much. Can I just say really quickly, as you described
yeah.
that, though, also this is also part of why I'm thinking about homeschooling a lot, is there is so much of our children's lives we miss out on, right? There when we send them to school. I mean, I send my kids to school, so I'm not saying this like to people like who are sending their kids to school. Like, I send my kids to school, so I'm realizing for myself, right? Like, there's just so much. There is just so much of them that I miss out on as a result. And yeah, and I really hear that. Like, obviously there's still lots of opportunities for me to sit with them and to be hearing their ideas and everything. But I think as they're getting older, I'm just realizing more and more how precious that is. Like how how precious it is to have the privilege of being able to be there to experience that. Like, I don't get to go and sit with them in the classroom and like experience that, but for the one day per year that they let you come and sit in the classroom, so it's just very alive inside me. So we will please definitely talk again when you
Yes, please. I would love that. I would love that so much. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for your time as well. I know that you're a busy gal, and so it's great. It's wonderful when we get a chance to speak with each other. And I always feel like it felt like it was 5 minutes that we sat here.
I felt like we
and
just got started now.
Like a little, and then I also feel like there's still like a thousand things that I'd like to talk with you. So
amazing with me, these conversations, how like right now I'm like, oh, I feel like we've kind of just started with some threads.
I'm grateful, and I'm thankful for you. And yeah, it is a great conversation. And this is this is the beautiful thing about these types of conversations, is they add to this continued work and process and progress, or whatever you want to call it, of cultivating ourselves as people, as women, as mothers. So yeah, very cool. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
I had to say cool one more time.
Yeah. I will say briefly too, because I know you have a baby to get back to. There's something about, I can feel, and I could be wrong, and I could just be projecting stuff, but I feel like almost there's this, there is something about the beauty of motherhood that allows us to kind of get to a place where just the beauty of womanhood in a more whole sense, and a beauty of getting back in touch with our whole self. As women, after going through, after being a mother for a period of time, there's something about it that just feels so alive inside you right now. It's also starting to birth inside me in recent times. That it doesn't get enough attention. It's such regenerating is a great word for it. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited by that feeling. Which is why when you were using excitement, I knew exactly how. I was like, yeah, like, I think I know what you mean. It's exciting. And again, it's not like from a selfish place of, oh, good. It's exciting because of that, like what it means relationally, like what it brings into everything. And I feel that even in this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
What it adds to this. But this was cool, very cool.
Very cool.
And very enlightening, and I always learn so much from you. Really, I do. And
thank you. Me too, Aspasia. Thank you.
We'll talk again soon about homeschooling.
Yes,
Second.
let's do it. I would really love that. Thanks again.